Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I have a very special guest, a woman I've known since the beginning of her career when she was, I believe, at Oprah Winfrey's magazine. She started out strong and she's been going strong ever since. She is Tai Beauchamp. Let me tell you about her. She is a television personality and serial entrepreneur. She's not only the founder of Tai Life Media LLC, which is a media and creative consulting company, but she's also the co-founder of the groundbreaking fragrance brand Brown Girl Jane. That's right, Brown Girl Jane. We're going to talk all about that. And as if this weren't enough, Tai has been elevating the minds, hearts, and spirits of her viewers with her popular morning series called Morning Mindset with Tai. Please join me in welcoming Tai Beauchamp.
Oh my gosh, Harriette, it's so great to
We
meet
we
you.
go way back.
Way back. My gosh, it's like I have these moments because it feels like it was yesterday in some ways, and then in other ways, it's like, oh, it wasn't yesterday. It was
Yes.
yesterday.
And I, Dreamleapers is all about helping people to access and activate their dreams. And on this program, what I do is to bring people on who have done it, are doing it, to inspire others to leap into their own dreams. And you have had so many, and so many that are successful. I actually want to talk a little bit about your working on Oprah Winfrey's magazine because that was huge. And wasn't that at the very beginning?
That was my first job out of college. Yeah, so that was I started at Oprah June of 2000, so 23 years ago. I think that's the other thing. I have these moments. I was working in media before then, through internships and through other work I was doing, like in producing fashion shows and that sort of thing. But that was my first job out of college, literally fresh out of Spelman College.
And what were you doing? What did you do at the magazine then?
So I was hired originally as the first, official fashion and beauty assistant for the magazine. And as you know, in startup world, there are often double jobs.
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
One, because you're waiting to scale and figure out how the budget is going to work and what have you. And so my official title was fashion and beauty assistant. So I assisted two directors. Christine Fellingham was my beauty director, and Lisa Elwell was my fashion director. And so I was literally going between the fashion closet and the beauty closet,
Mhm.
and going to on appointments, and researching and writing captions and writing stories. Yeah, it's I mean, it's crazy to think.
It is, and all that meant back then. Now, the Oprah Winfrey magazine is huge. I mean, everybody knows it. Of course, everybody knew her back then, but you were in startup land,
we
which is a very specific kind of environment. It's a small team. Everybody's cranking it out. Were you always interested in fashion and beauty?
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, and Oprah's magazine still to this day is the most successful magazine launch in history. And so I'll be honest, at 22 years old, fresh from Spelman, I had no idea what that meant, right? And I always like to say at 22 years old, I wasn't necessarily thinking about living my best life, and I didn't know that starting at this magazine was going to be as monumental as it was, not only for me, but for the world, and for what we did in publishing, and how we set a new tone and stage for what not only beauty looked like, but what lifestyle looked like. And I think Oprah in particular, as the incredible, phenomenal entrepreneur, TV host, and all of that she was and is, it was different, right? Because it was, a general market magazine. It was launched under Hearst. Oprah was on the cover every single month. And we were creating content to really connect women to their spiritual, emotional, and living their best live selves. And it was really, really powerful. I didn't always know I wanted to be in magazines. When I went to Spelman, I started out as a bio major, so I thought I was going to be a
Ooh.
doctor. But I will say, growing up with my mom and my grandparents, outside of Newark, New Jersey, I mean, a progressive Black girl, what else would you be? A doctor, lawyer, a teacher? That was all I really, really knew,
Right.
um, that I could actually aspire to. My family are all educators. And, I thought I was going to be a doctor. And until I was close to flunking biology, and it was like, I don't know how I don't know who's gonna let you doctor them. Not like that. I don't know if that's gonna
I didn't
happen.
even have that thought. I knew I wouldn't even get that far. So at least you tried.
I totally tried. And then bio just was not agreeing with me. And I was like, I was used to being this A student. I was like, oh my God, a C. Oh my God, a D. Oh, get me
Ooh,
out of here. So I was like, I had to go. But I did model as a teenager. So I modeled from the time I was 15 to 18, and living so close to New York City, I had been exposed to the fashion industry as a model and exposed to, that world. And so I was always super inspired by communication via fashion expression and articulation. That's always how I saw it. And so it was, when I got to Spelman, it was gonna flunk out of biology. I sat down with my mentor and he was like, well, what do you love doing? And I was always a great writer. I loved writing. I started writing when I was 8 years old, and I would write these incredible stories and, do all this reporting. And I was like, well, I love fashion. He's like, well, what about being a fashion writer? And it never dawned on me, even as someone, who had her room plastered with the essences of the world, the Harper's Bazaars of the world. I mean, I was literally that girl because I worked in fashion. I never thought that I could be a writer of fashion. And it was that really set me on my stage to then get the internships in magazine publishing at Hearst. And then when Hearst was launching Oprah, I was fortunate enough to be asked to come and interview. And yeah.
well, you just said something that many people who are successful have told me, and so there's a thread here about someone inspiring you, someone seeing something in you and saying, "Look, what about this? What about this?" It's so important for us to have people in our corner who notice the greatness in us, right? Because you may or may not notice it yourself. So that person was pivotal. Who are some other people who you would point to as really helping to guide you and inspire you along the way?
Well, it's still happening. I mean, that's the other thing. It never stops. I think, and when we talk about dream leapers and the idea of being a dream leaper, you never stop leaping toward dreams, and
Mhm.
hopefully you never stop dreaming. And I think that that's what supports in, our growth and our evolution to do new things and have new opportunities to create a different type of impact or honor our purpose in a different way. My grandmother, Mary, is by far my greatest inspiration, and I actually probably owe a lot of my love of beauty and typically a red lip. I went and got a different lip today, but just because I'm wearing neutrals. But she used to apply her red lip just so,
Right.
and I was always taken by that. So she would be the person who saw a lot in me
Mhm.
very early and nurtured it, and also encouraged me to be who I was, which was, an interesting kid because I always spoke up. I was very clear. I was very, and that wasn't always necessarily welcome back in the day. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was born in the 70s. So, she was coming off of the season of, be seen and not be heard. But she inspired me and encouraged me to speak my voice and to understand what I felt and express those things. And I think that's probably why I do some of the work I do now. My mentor, Ray Chambers, who was the individual that I spoke to, who was just like, maybe you should be a writer. I've been guided and supported by women and people like Mickey Taylor, who's also a fellow Newarker and, worked in beauty as well, as you know.
Iconic. 30 years
Oh
plus at Essence Magazine. Yep.
Oh my goodness, Beth Ann Hardison is someone else. And we have that right now. I think about it, as I think about Brown Girl Jane and what we're building now so enthusiastically with our fragrance line. Linda Levy at the Fragrance
Mm,
Foundation. She is someone,
it's amazing.
who sees us. And so there are people, and sometimes they are people who, have had this level of experience that we see as grand, and they might be far reaching. And I've been really blessed and fortunate to be in some of those circles and have access to these individuals. But sometimes it's my business partner, Malika, who is the mother of 3 children and who, unfortunately, recently suffered a loss. And, I see her fortitude, right? And so, sometimes she just modeling, becomes part of the mirror that helps me to see myself differently. And then I have a slew of incredible badass girlfriends. Let
Yep.
me just tell you, my girlfriends, and I'm talking about from every walk and experience of life, whether or not they're in the C-suite or they're entrepreneurs or they're artists that, remind me of my greatness. And I'm grateful for that.
Which is so important. I want to talk about something that we share, which is being tall.
Mm.
And you got me by a few inches, which is rare. But I'm bringing up, my daughter, who is about to turn 20, she's tall as well. And we were talking about this the other day. Just like when she was little, she would say to me, "Mommy, I want to be taller than you when I grow up." And I was like, "Well, I've given you my genes. Your daddy gave you the genes. We don't know what's going to happen." And then when she got to high school, she said, "Mommy, I don't want to grow anymore."
Yeah.
And because she was taller than everyone. So she's now in college, and we were talking about it just yesterday, and how you have to make a relationship with your physical self and the world. And as tall people moving through the world, I know for me, when I was growing up, I was the tallest, skinniest one, and they teased me.
Yep.
And I wore glasses and they teased me. And it wasn't until I started modeling at about age 13 that it changed. I was like, oh, I could wear those clothes, oh, this is kind of cool. But at first it was, as a point of ridicule. What I tell my daughter is, there's so many great advantages to being who you are and the body you're in. And I say that for everybody, no matter what your size or stature. But as living among the tall people as we are, just there are things that you can see and survey that are different. So I'm curious for you,
Mhm.
growing up, because now clearly you fully embrace all of you. But was it ever hard for you as a tall woman?
For sure. Are you kidding me? I mean, like you, I was the tallest when I was at the end of the line. I was super skinny. Um, totally had awkward years, as we all do, and uncomfortable in your body. But isn't it like what you said? It's the gift of growth and experience where you learn to be comfortable. And I like, you know, I had those moments where I was like, oh, I'm happy to be tall. Oh, I'm not happy to be tall. What does this mean? I mean, even still now, as a not yet married, I don't want to say unmarried because I'm not yet married or not yet partnered. It's still the same thing with meeting guys and meeting men. It's like, they're like, okay, well, will you date someone shorter? And I'm like, if I'm comfortable in my body and he's comfortable in his body, we have no issues, right? But it took a lot to get there. And there were the
Right.
moments, when I was younger, was like, oh no, that doesn't look right,
Mm.
and I do love what you said about the purview that we have and the vantage point that
Mm.
we have from our eye line. And a piece of that has to do with being tall, but that's anyone's eye line, and recognizing
Yes.
that you can choose to have to see the horizon however you choose to see it based upon
That's
where you
right.
stand and where you sit. But I love being tall now. Harriet, as you know, I wear 5 and 6 inch heels still.
And in your stocking feet, how tall are you?
5'11 3/4, I
See?
think, around
See,
about.
and I'm 5'9", although sometimes it looks like 5'9.5". So yeah, when I see Ty walking in the room, I'm like, all right, go ahead, girl. Now, just because for all the folks who are not tall like we are, my grandmother, for whom my daughter is named, my maternal grandmother, was literally a foot shorter than me. She was 4'9". She wore
Wow.
a 3.5 shoe tie. And so when we were growing up, I don't know what I was like. I don't even know how old I was. I was a little girl and I could wear her shoes. You know how we put on the moms and grandma's shoes and we're clunking around? No, they fit.
That is hilarious.
And
Wow.
even though she was tiny, you didn't even, I mean, you did notice we called her little grandma, but her
I love
presence
that.
her presence was filled.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so that's the thing, whatever body we inhabit,
Mhm.
our presence can fill the room however we want it to, as long as we claim our power.
Yes.
And isn't that what it's all about? And that's what I learned from her. She claimed her power and greatness every single day. We are here with Tai Beauchamp. This is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. I am so excited to have Tai here. We have known each other for a long time, and she has had many successes, many dreams that have manifested and are continuing to manifest. And I want to tell you all why she is here now. Why we have Tai here at Dreamleapers is because about a month ago, I was at a lovely event for the Fragrance Foundation, and there so it was a luncheon. It was really sweet. Whenever invited to the Fragrance Foundation events, I always go. I walk in and there is Tai. Now, I don't know what rock I was under. I didn't realize that you had a fragrance line. I don't know how that happened, but anyway,
It's okay. It's
yeah, but
okay.
this beautiful line, Brown Girl Jane, you and your business partner had a table where you're sampling the products and got a chance to talk to us about them. Please tell us, what is Brown Girl Jane? How did you come up with this idea? And then I want to talk about the idea of having a business partner and what that's like.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, Brown Girl Jane, we started about 3.5 years ago. And we started the brand between three of us, actually, all Spellman sisters. So Malika Jones is my Spellman sister. She's a year behind me. And her biological sister, Nia Jones, is, I think, 3 years behind her. And we wanted to create a collection to really support the wellness needs of Black and Brown women, recognizing that, we're the type of women who do all the things all of the time. Malika was a managing director at JP Morgan. Nia was the head of a philanthropic foundation for an insurance company. And as you know, Harriette, I had been, working in magazine publishing, rose through the ranks of magazine publishing, started my entrepreneurial career as a brand consultant, and then started a TV career in a production company and what have you. And so we were like, how do we support the wellness needs of women like us, women who don't have a lot of time, women who want to feel, comforted, supported on a daily basis? And so, looking at, the benefits of scent, and our olfactive system, and is really the most powerful system in our body because it connects directly to emotion and feeling. And so we said, what can we do here? And we partner with the incredible people over at Firmenich, drawing on more than 25 years of research and neuroscientific study around the benefits of scent on your brain and on your energy and on your vibrancy and on your wellness overall. And so Brown Girl Jane is a fine fragrance collection that is designed to support what you need first. So it's turning the idea of scent on its head, because most of the time when you use scent, it's like, you're doing it for someone else. So we say you spritz this for yourself. We want to create your own scent sanctuary for yourself, and then other people benefit. Yeah.
Scent sanctuary. I like the sound of that. And the packaging is beautiful. The bottle is so great. This one I have up is Casablanca. What I feel when wearing it, it feels like a hug.
That's so okay. So I don't know if you know, but Casablanca. So our first collection, the Wanderlust collection. I'm happy you have it there because I'm not at home. I'm at my girlfriend's house, so I don't have the full collection here to show and do my Vanna White moment. But the first collection, the Wanderlust collection, we were inspired by. We launched during COVID. We were inspired by the places you go to feel transported. So it's called the
Mm.
Wanderlust collection. So we have Casablanca, which is directly correlates to love. And
Mm.
then we have Bahia, and then we have L'amour. Bahia correlates to peace. L'amour correlates to joy. And then our latest collection is the Day Past Midnight collection. So we have Dawn, which is energizing. We have Dusk, which is grounding and restful. And then we have Dare, which is all about the seduction and kind of being that girl. So I love that you said it made you feel like you got a hug.
I'm telling you, I said, let me spray it right before this
Ah,
broadcast so that because I wanted to be in the experience of one of your fragrances when we were talking. And that is what it feels like right now. That is the feeling that I have. And, you have all kinds of feelings from fragrance, but that is the feeling that this one has given me. It's got an earthiness to
you have
it and a
cardamom.
warmth. Yeah.
You have cardamom, you have marshmallow, you have lychee. No, that's there. Cardamom, marshmallow, Italian suede. So, it's grounding, but then also the idea of the marshmallow makes it like, seductive and inviting and enveloping in some ways. I love that you said it felt like a hug. We did our job. We did
You
it.
and look, y'all, just so you know, we didn't talk about this before at all. Not at all. But
Exactly.
and then the new collection, you did talk to me about this, which I thought was really cool, that the idea of layering, that those fragrances you can put on so they're not Casablanca is very full. I
Mhm.
wouldn't want I don't know whether you suggest this, but I wouldn't necessarily want to layer that. It feels like enough in and of itself. You perhaps you can, but the others, the new collection, they're lighter, and so they kind of very naturally can layer on top of each other, and you don't people don't smell you before you come in the room, you know?
Well, so and that was the point, and so actually you can layer all of our scents. We design
Oh,
each of
good.
them to layer.
Okay.
Even when we're designing each new scent, we're like, "Okay, how does that work with that?" But it's
Okay.
also the idea of, again, this being your personal how you own it, and the idea of, having a signature scent, and our philosophy is that that time is gone. You want your custom scent to kind of emote and, kind of direct how you want to feel. So I like
Mhm.
to say, if you need a little love, you do the Casablanca. If you want a little
Nice.
energy too, you can layer on Dawn with that as well.
Okay.
Because again, it's speaking to the layers of who we are as Black women. That's the other thing. We're so layered, we're so multidimensional. And so we wanted to bring all of that into the storytelling of why Brown Girl Jane and what makes it so unique and different. Our approach is very different because, as you know, as a beauty girl, and I can't even say former beauty girl because once a beauty girl, you're
You
always
are. That's who you are.
always a beauty girl. But is that, we want people who experience our fragrances to know that they can be, the director of how they feel. And this
Mhm.
is how you design that, and it's for you. And so if you want to layer a whole bunch of different things on there to actually give yourself that peace, that joy at the same time, and then you want seduction, have
I
it,
like
girl. Like, go
I like
for it.
I like
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna try it. I have those other ones too, so I'm gonna try it and see how, how it makes me feel. I love the idea though that you're getting at something that is very important. It's the inner experience, the experience that you want to have for yourself.
Yeah.
And people wear fragrances for lots of reasons and they're all fine, but this notion of looking within
Mhm.
and tapping into what is your state of being right now and what can that smell like or how can your fragrance enhance that I love. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about the red lipstick that you learned. So my mother, who is about to turn 94,
Oh my
I
gosh.
know, right? She's a red lipstick girl. And even at this age, she does not need a mirror. She knows how to put that lipstick on and it's perfect. And we knew she had on her earrings and her red lipstick, then she's ready to go. And this is and if she doesn't have it on, you wonder why. COVID made that difficult. She's like, I can't really put it on under my mask, but
Right, 'cause it totally would be I experience that constantly. I had red lipstick on my nose.
inside.
So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely.
But but for her, it was and is a sign of just the signature of who she is.
Mm,
The lipstick, the fragrance, the jewelry.
yeah.
And then she's set. When you were growing up, was fragrance important in your household with your mom and your grandma and
Yeah,
all of
totally.
that?
Absolutely. It's funny, I have distinct memories of when Poison came out. I had because my grandmother and mom both loved Poison, Opium, um,
Yes.
there and I remember the bottles as well because, also very visual, and, the idea of scent, it wasn't just about the fragrance, it was, like, the difference in going to my mother's home and going to my grandmother's home, it was the difference in going into the school building. The idea of what scent memory does is that it triggers not only just nostalgia, but it takes us to a place. And hopefully, what we desire to do with Brown Girl Jane is to take you to a place that actually feels very comforting and soothing and aligned with where you are. So, yeah, scent is always just so important. And it's funny because, now in my home, I'm always, and we have limited edition candles. We will be reintroducing
That
them.
was gonna be my next question. Come on now.
Yeah, so we did launch candles actually, before we launched the fragrances, we launched candles. And so as we renew, and expand the line, we'll have candles that actually correlate to the scents. And when we were at Harlem's Fashion Row,
Yes.
at the event, we scented the room. And so we are always thinking about how you can leverage scent to feel empowered and feel great about where you are, how you are, who you are in that moment. So candles are definitely coming.
Well, that was going to be my question because I live with some candles in my
Yes,
house.
girl.
And it's just, fragrance does matter. It matters a lot, and it can set the tone for whatever that moment will be. Let's talk a bit about the business of fragrance because it is a huge business. When you just mentioned, opium, I totally remember it go right back to, that fragrance when I was growing up. What there are so many fragrances on the market. If you go into any major department store and then Sephora and Ulta Beauty and all of those, I mean, fragrances fill
Mhm,
space.
mhm.
It is a competitive business. You and your partners decided to enter this business. How did you get your foot in the door and how's it going?
Yeah, great question. So, a couple things about the fragrance industry as a whole. Fragrance is definitely having a moment, but the moment that we're having in fragrance is very interesting because if you go into any of the doors that you just mentioned, historically, what you would see would be a lot of licensing of brand names, fashion designers. Other brands that exist, whether a Burberry or what have you, and so there was a large licensing business, and also with celebrities. But with that being said, we also have to just acknowledge, and I think you started to say this, Harriet, that fragrance as an industry has historically been overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly French and male. And so it is poised for disruption, quite frankly, because also we consume fragrance more than our white counterparts here in the US. 85% of Black and Brown people consume fragrance compared to that of 78% in all different facets. And so what that says is that from an industry standpoint, we're buying as we always do in the
Right.
beauty space, but oftentimes it's not nearly as reflective. And with that, I have to acknowledge the incredible work that the Fragrance Foundation and Linda Levy and Charnay Jackson and their team are doing to actually, which was the event we were at,
Sure.
around honoring, taking fragrance forward and making sure that there's diversity in the space and more reflectivity. I don't even like to call it diversity. I like to say, like, let's be reflective of the audiences,
Mhm.
the communities that we're serving. So there's a major opportunity. And while it might seem like a saturated space, the approach that we have to fragrance is what makes it uniquely different with Brown Girl Jane. And it's also, I think, the approach that we're starting to see with other fragrance makers who are of color, whom I celebrate. Chris Collins is a dear friend.
Yeah.
Terry Johnson, another dear friend. Chris Classic, who's here in Atlanta, has Savoir Faire. We have to celebrate and understand all these brands and the nuances because there's a lot of room for all of us. And so, as a business, we are doing well. We are really, really fortunate. We are really, really fortunate. We launched Brown Girl Jane just a little more than 3.5 years ago. And through incredible partnerships and obviously creating a stellar product and a stellar brand, the community is responding. But we've also been really intentional about how we built community simultaneously. And so, we launched the Black Beauty and Wellness Summit. We have an incredible partnership with Unilever and the team at Shea Moisture, where Brown Girl Jane has granted more than $500,000 in the last 3 years. This fourth year, we just had our applications that came in for our Brown Girl Swamp grant initiative that we do in partnership with Shea Moisture. And so after this grant initiative, we will have, in partnership with Shea Moisture, granted more than $625,000 to other Black women beauty and wellness founders. And so we've been very intentional about how we can,
Wow.
yeah. So it's
Let's
like,
just pause for a second. We can't gloss over that. That is huge. So
thank
so
you.
just explain, you're giving it to whom? Where are
To
these
other
funds?
Black women beauty and wellness founders. So some of the beauty and wellness founders that you may have heard of, we Range Beauty, Alicia of Range Beauty. So to date, we haven't announced this cohort yet, but to date, we have granted more than 38 women, Black women founders, a total of $505,000 with support from Shea. So yeah.
Congratulations. That is awesome. Hey guys, this is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are so excited to spend this hour with Tai Beauchamp, who just said 500, $600,000 given to Black women who work in the beauty industry, who are makers in the beauty industry. That is fantastic, especially for a new business. And you've been doing it from the beginning. That is so good. Congratulations to you for having
Thank
the vision for that, and
thank
also to identify those women. Because one of the things that we know is very often it will be said, well, I couldn't find anybody Black or of color or whatever it is, any woman who does whatever this thing is. So that's why we don't have them. And you're saying, you can't say that because they're here.
Yeah, I mean, that's impossible. Like that's when I'm like, I am buying it. I think the other thing is like in Harriet, we talked about this earlier. I was blessed with really great opportunities. Now, I had access, and that was a gift and a blessing. From my mentor, that I was able to get my first internship. But once I got my internship, I stayed in the door. And for us, I think as founders, Malika, Nia, and I, all, about impact as we build an enterprise that is profitable. So let me just say, Brown Girl Jane is a profitable business, even as young as we are. And we did raise some money, which was incredible to do at that time. Never enough, but because obviously scaling a business like this is not easy. But on the heels of what we experienced in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd, as founders, we thought to ourselves, what can we do?
Right.
What is our job? What is our opportunity here? Now, fortunately, because of wonderful relationships that I've had with people like AC Eggleston Bracey and Kara Sabin, they took notice of what we were doing online. We started something called the Brown Girl Swap after the unfortunate murder of George Floyd, and we called upon consumers to swap out 5 of their everyday beauty and wellness brands that might be owned by a Unilever or a P&G for small brands owned by Black and brown
Oh,
women.
sure.
And this was our way of saying, like, how can we support the economic opportunity and growth that we know actually is so critical to, to shortening the gap that exists
Yeah.
between us and other communities. And so in doing so, AC literally, she said, what is this brown girl swap thing? She texted me. She said, what is this brown girl swap thing you're doing on Instagram? She said, I want to learn more about it. And it was with that, after that, Malika and I put together an incredible proposal and sent it over to her and Kara, and they received it wonderfully. And a piece of it was creating this Black Beauty and Wellness Summit and also funding other Black women entrepreneurs in the beauty and wellness space.
And for anyone who doesn't know who AC is, tell them, please.
AEC Eggleston Bracey, my wonderful big sister, who is the president of Unilever North America.
She is
Incredible.
a powerhouse.
Powerhouse,
A
legend.
powerhouse, a legend, and she's been working for a long time in this space of inclusion and really shining a light on women of color and just making space,
She
making
has,
space.
I mean, well, and you asked me the question earlier, and forgive me because I talked about my sisterhood, and obviously I don't want to start to name some and not name others. But since we're talking about AC Eggleston Bracey in particular, she is that person for me and has been that person for me for 23 years. I met AC, as a young assistant, and as you know, in the beauty industry, as an editor, there were, I mean, this world of social media where there are so many incredible influencers and it's wonderful to see, but that was not the case. There were, I was one of very few in this
Very few.
very, 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 very few. And AC was that woman that I saw when you asked about Amira. I remember actually seeing her speak, and I had gone down to Hunt Valley. We were working on what became the CoverGirl Queen collection that she was
Right.
developing. Were you on that trip to Baltimore too?
I
Okay.
was not. I was not.
Okay. So there were a few of us. I think it were maybe like 5 or 6 of us went down. And I remember seeing AC present, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that was a mirror. Here is this, you know, Black woman, natural hair, blonde hair,
Yep.
super smart and super poised, but also a girl from Chicago, right?
Right.
And I'm a girl from Newark. So, I'm seeing these mirrors of what the possibilities are. And AC has been fantastic, along with Kara Sabin and Tadra and Simone and Tendo and the entire team and Greg. I never not want to mention people because I see people, and that's the other thing that is really important, I think, about what we're doing at Brown Girl Jane, and then also what I try to do with Morning Mindset with Tai, to make sure that we feel seen and it's real, and it's real.
Well, so let's talk about that because I do a lot of work in helping people to access their power and stand tall in their power and really own their greatness. And what we know is that every one of us wants to be seen, heard, and appreciated.
Mhm.
It doesn't even matter what else. It's nice to have money, it's nice to have beautiful things, but if you can have that, then you're good.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you do this broadcast, and I'd like you to talk about why you're doing that broadcast that now includes the hikes and, I mean, it's so beautiful where you live and that you share that with others. How did you get started?
Yeah, I mean, Harriet, the truth of the matter is that Morning Mindset with Tai was not anything I was planning to do. I was at a turning point. I was pivoting, and it was around the same time that we were launching Brown Girl Jane. I've worked and hosted television and produced TV, and done some. I like to say impact work, but as an influencer, and the landscape was changing. And I had moved to Los Angeles, California from New York, and I was going through a season. I mean, a season. And I, said, how can I really kind of like connect to God, connect with myself to feel more empowered? And I doubled down on what my daily practice and how I started my morning and what it would look like. And I became super intentional about it. So it started with prayer and devotion, some journaling, and then I would go outside and hike every single day. And I think I hiked probably for about 45 days straight. And this was at a time when I was like, I put on the extra LBs. I was like, sis, get it together. And but hiking for me wasn't just about the physical transformation. It was a spiritual and emotional transformation, because we hike in life. Life is a
Right.
hike, right? You have uphill, you have times when you're like, I want to quit, I can't go. You have times when you lost your breath. You have times when you're going down the hill, you're not sure, you lose your footing, like no one is there, someone is standing next to you. Life is a hike. And I started to think about how metaphorical it was. And as I was hiking, I was like, I'm going to go on live and just share my daily devotional. And what started out as a couple people coming into these live turned out to be 100 plus people coming into the lives daily. And then people started to ask to hike with me. And so what we do in Morning Mindset, I like to say, is that you come there to elevate your heart, your mind, and spirit daily. Because I believe that how you begin is half the win. So that's half the solution, half the battle of how you get through the rest of the day. And I want to, build community ultimately, recognizing that, I have my own wisdom and my own insight, but it's really in community and exchange with other people that we learn and that we're able to grow and evolve. So yeah, Morning Mindset now is 3+ years old as well. I'm like, dog, why I'd be starting all this stuff around the same time. It's 3+ years old, and we host a monthly hikes and experience, because it's not just a hike. We affirm, we move, we connect, and we reset every single month in Los Angeles. And now we're actually taking it on tour. We've popped up at activations like ABFF, Art Basel. We work with clients like Cadillac and Lululemon. We did a huge activation during BET weekend, where more than 300 plus Black women came out to the hike and experience to be transformed and be connected.
That's beautiful. I love that because, so many things you started this right before the pandemic, but then in the pandemic, it became that much more important. In the sister to this Dreamleapers program, I started a Dreamleapers inspiration
Mm.
on Facebook, like in April of 2020, right after COVID started, just to get people to go inside and ponder how we can inspire ourselves into our greatness. And I was doing it every day at first, Ty, because we were in such an isolated, dark
Yeah.
place. And now I do it once a week, but it makes a difference. It makes a difference to one. I always often talk about what my mother has taught me, and one of those things is to notice the bright lights in the room
Mm.
and to be a source of light, that and noticing the bright lights in the room makes so much difference. And I know you will appreciate this as someone who's speaking to audiences all the time. You can notice when you walk into that room, you can notice the person on their phone, the person yawning, the person who looks
Mhm.
bored or whatever. But instead of noticing them, what about the people who are smiling at you,
Yeah.
who are shining their love out and onto you? And that was her thing. If you do that, then you're going to just attract more and more and more light, and then there's light everywhere. And I feel like that is something that your morning mindset does for people. And I love that you're taking it on the road, because we want to connect this way using technology, but also it's really nice to connect. Like I said, how the fragrance makes me feel, to actually be able to hug people because you're in the same space.
It's essential, Harriet. It's essential. And I actually, it's so crazy because, we grew up during a time when there was no social media. And I remember, like, as social media was starting to swell, and I was really reticent. I was, telling my younger sisters and friends, like, go do it. But I was really reticent because there's a piece of me that's also highly introverted, which people are surprised to know. And, there's also a piece of life that, when you get to a certain age, you want to reserve some of it
Sure.
for you. Right. But I was reticent about it. And as social media came of age, I was the editor in chief at Vibe Vixen, and I remember I was like, all right, got my sister to get me an email address so I could have a Spellman account for Facebook.
Right.
I put it on my editor's letter, but I always thought that the key to social media is going to be bringing people back physically together.
Mhm.
So, people are hungry, and we're also in, what anthropologists say and researchers say is a really challenging epidemic of loneliness. And
Yes.
the only way that we're going to get out of this is to get back to being human, get back to shining lights. And obviously, we're living in a time right now, as so many things are happening in the world, and the war that is happening in the Middle East right now, which breaks my heart, is
Yeah.
that the light is so important, and everyone has a light. And I think sometimes it's not even about, being so caught on how big or how bright the light is. Just shine the light that you have. And as a person who was raised in the church, this little light of mine, whatever the light is, how little it is, how bold it is, we need it, and your light matters. And morning mindset has been a beacon of light, to others, but I'll tell you, this tribe and this community has been a beacon of light to me. We had 28 Black women from the United States come with me to Bali on the first retreat I
Mhm.
did there 2 months ago. And, those women now are building healthy and vibrant communities between themselves, and also talking about the transformation that they experience. I want us all to be well. I mean, I think that that's both my purpose and my superpower, is like, to see people. But, my purpose in this earth, and I can do it either through Brown Girl Jane or Morning Mindset or being on TV or talking to the kids or wherever it is to help people see themselves and feel and be their most empowered selves. Yeah, because that's what changed my life.
Sure.
That's what changed my life. It was my grandmother seeing me. It was my mentor seeing me. It was some of the people that I shared earlier seeing me.
Oh, beautiful. This is Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. We are so honored to be here with Tai Beauchamp. She is dropping knowledge right now and, stirring the soul, stirring the spirit, and shining a light, which is exactly what we want to do and need to do every single day. She is founder of Brown Girl Jane, these delicious fragrances. I'm wearing Casablanca right now. And just it's such an honor to have you here, Ty. You shared something in talking about what's going on in our world, and I remember. I think it is in the book that I wrote called Choosing Truth. I can't remember. It's one of them. But
Mhm.
back when there was another war going on, and everybody was so upset about what was going on in the Middle East, and I challenged us to look at the little wars that we create in our lives and to stop. What can we do in our own lives to create wellness and peace?
Mm,
How often, rather than shining a light, are we starting a fire? A
mm,
different kind of light, right?
mm,
And you just think of it when you're mad at someone. You
mhm.
talked about the love of your girlfriends. I'm sure you've had the experience also where the girlfriends can complain about each other or somebody, and it starts a fire.
Mm,
And when you start a fire, it is so hard to put the fire out. You're gone, you're gone off to something else. You've forgiven whoever it is that you were mad at, whatever that story might be, but the fire is still blazing.
mm,
And I think it is incumbent upon us to pay attention to what we choose to utter out of our mouths.
yeah,
What do we say? Is it really important for me to badmouth someone? Is it really necessary for me to complain? When I pick up the phone, what if I don't complain? What if
mm,
I call someone, especially if I'm feeling low, if I
mhm,
call someone whose light I know is bright, and
mhm.
then just like in church, that person can relight my light, and then we can pass that along. But that takes conscious effort.
Yeah,
And that's why I particularly like the work that you're doing, because it is a conscious effort toward wellness and wholeness. And Ty, I've seen so many women and men of every age right now suffering,
yeah. It's
suffering, you know, depression, anxiety, putting on weight and being overtaken by weight, and we have to help each other.
yeah. I mean, you've said so much. I think, you know, I'm a believer that either it's helping or it's hurting.
Mhm.
And so I think that, and no one is perfect. So no one's expecting everyone to have, perfect times all the time. And, your truth is your truth. I can say very transparently, and I changed the word from anxiety to anticipation. But
Mm.
I've experienced anticipation, and there are times even still with everything that I'm doing. Not to mention the travel, that anticipation happens, right?
Right,
Anxiety happens. I'm just giving you the code for how I
right,
try and crystallize it so that way I'm not left with the wound of even the word, the wound
right.
of the word, and
The
that's
wound of the word,
the
yeah.
wound of the word. And what you just said is it. When you can either speak light or you can speak darkness. You can either speak life or you can speak death. And scripture talks about the tongue and the power of the tongue and the words that we use. And so we have to speak life and light over ourselves and speak light and life over other people. I just don't know. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it because I realize that there's again so much happening in the world and people come, to circumstances sometimes with wounds that they didn't necessarily create but inherited, right? We come sometimes to circumstances with trauma that wasn't mine. It could have been the legacy of trauma that my great grandmother had or my grandmother had that I didn't know, but I still
Right.
show up with it. But what will you do with that?
Mhm,
And Morning Mindset has just been a wonderful blessing and gift. And I'm so grateful. It's not easy. I'm on 4 days a week, uh,
mhm.
Monday through Thursday, 6:30 a.m. PST, because I'm an early riser. Um, and I've remained committed, and we're just getting to the place where we will hopefully begin to monetize it a lot more. Because this was something I was just doing out of my heart
Yeah,
and my spirit, and feeling called. And then you feel, the wonderful, the the wonderful impact that you're having, and then now it does feel like something I have to do because I know that other people need it and
mhm,
desire it. So yeah,
beautiful.
it's been a lot, but great,
It
but
and you know what? I feel like it's always a lot, so we have to choose what our lot is, because
mm,
life is busy. Life is busy even when you're tucked under the covers and hiding out. There's that energy of busyness is there.
mhm.
We have a chance to make the light brighter and to help other people and to give that hug. And so, Tai Beauchamp, I'm wearing the hug right now, the
I'm
Casablanca
happy you got all
hug.
the love. You got the Casablanca love. We call it Casa.
I
Um,
got the Casa love,
and
girl.
I love calling it Casa because it also is a reminder of love
Oh,
is your home. Like
yes,
that is meant to be our home. Like our home and our body is
that's
meant to be
beautiful.
love.
Where can people purchase the fragrances?
So Brown Girl Jane, you can buy it at browngirljane.com. You can buy it at Nordstrom.com. You can buy it at Saks.com. You can buy it at Bloomingdale's. And we'll have a major announcement very, very soon, which I think when I came on, I was like, I have a call. Like, so we're working on
Soon come.
soon come. There will be an incredible announcement about a launch and a new door in at the top of the year.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Congratulations on
Oh,
all
Harriet.
that you are doing. This is beautiful. It's wonderful to reconnect with you. It always is a burst of light when we see each other, and I'm glad we could share this with so many others. Thank you, Tai.
Harry, I have to just say, I know that we're at time and I have a flight to catch, but I just want to say thank you. It's also really incredible to see evolution, right? Because I think there was a time when we worked in magazine publishing, who would have thought or thunk, right, that the evolution would look like the way that it does. And you have been so instrumental in, storytelling, being a beauty editor, being an editor, and, and helping other people behind you. And then now to have your platform here and to share it with people like me. So I want to say thank you. It is wonderful to be reconnected. I'm happy you got
Yes,
Brown Girl Jane, and you'll have to come on to Morning Mindset with Ty. So when this
I'd
drops,
be happy to. I'd be happy to. Thank you, dear.
love
Take
and
care.
blessings.
Yes, yes, yes. And thank all of you for tuning in to Dreamleapers with Harriette Cole. You need to smell this fragrance. You need to wrap yourself up in Brown Girl Jane. So go to the website, browngirljane.com. Until next time, have a great day and make it count.